I really think that it all goes back to understanding who your customer is more than anything.
Welcome to Empowerista, a show dedicated to helping you show up and be seen as an entrepreneur. I'm your host, Alex Worley, the CEO of Empowerista, an award-winning producer and national TV host, seen on platforms like Entrepreneur.com, Amazon Prime, and Business Rockstars. These are the tips and truths to amplify your influence and income. My guest today is Kara Goldin, the founder and CEO of Hint, best known for its flavored water. After leaving her job at AOL, Kara found herself overweight, low energy, and suffering from adult acne. After some reflection, Kara pinpointed the problem. She was addicted to diet soda. Plain water proved to be a quick fix, but Kara hated how bland it was, so she began cutting up fruit and throwing it in pitchers of water. What started as a quick solution to her own health problems soon turned into a product, and today a wildly successful company. Their latest success includes a Super Bowl commercial, which we discuss, along with her mission-driven mentality during our chat. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's on the heels of a really exciting event for you guys.
Yes.
You just had a commercial in the Super Bowl.
We
Wow.
did. It was so exciting.
You've made it when you have a commercial in the Super Bowl. Tell me about how that came about.
Well, it's so funny because I'm still on cloud nine after, this huge experience, but it's kind of, as a few entrepreneurs shared with me, it's sort of this stretch goal, right? That you sort of say, well, maybe one day we'll be doing a Super Bowl ad. And it all came together, pretty quickly. We had the creative all set that we were sort of waiting and trying to figure out, like, when do we ultimately use it? And then I had some friends in the industry who, shared with me some contacts, and then I figured out that there was some inventory that I could, sneak in on last minute. So the whole thing really came together within like 10 days. And so it was crazy on so many levels and very, very exciting on so many levels too. And it's, so it was very great.
I would love to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes of how you come up with the creative, because obviously, first of all, Super Bowl commercials are expensive, so you want to make sure that you're making wise strategic decisions. And then it's not just the commercials, there's all the buzz that happens afterwards from, people talking about it on Twitter for days, even now before the Super Bowl, because a lot of the commercials, I don't know if yours was, but a lot were released before the actual event. So there's this longevity that happens. So you want to make sure you're being strategic. How did you guys go about that?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we did not buy it nationally, so we bought it regionally, but our reach was almost 80% of the country. And so...
you picked the right region.
Right. And so, unfortunately, a lot of the media that you see ahead of time does not actually cover non-national ads. So, which, unfortunately, is not what we did, right? Fortunately and unfortunately. So we definitely didn't pay over $5 million for the scrappiness that we, basically did, but we also didn't get some of that press. So that was fine. We ran the ad. And now, more and more people are realizing, like, who actually did it smarter. Was it better to buy, a $5.6 million spot on the Super Bowl, or was it less, or was it better to do what we did, which, was probably close to a fifth of what, other Super Bowl ads did. And we could not have asked for a better placement. We were not guaranteed the placement that we ended up getting, and we ran right before the halftime show. Right next to the halftime show. So, it was so exciting when the creative actually ran my phone, I mean, I didn't even know a phone could do this. I mean, the number of texts from friends all over the country because nobody expected. I mean, we're the underdog, right? And, there's Pepsi and there's, Doritos ads and Hyundai and lots of, major advertisers. And so people are watching it. They're getting ready for the halftime show. And then all of a sudden they see this ad, and it was a pie eating contest, very fun, very silly, and basically talking about, that the pie does not taste as real as the hint water. And so you'll have to see it and Google it or look at it on YouTube.
I watched it. It is very funny, and that's what you want from Super Bowl ads, right?
And it's memorable.
You want it to be entertaining.
Totally.
And you guys pulled it off, and I know that there was a lot of buzz afterwards, and that's probably part of what you hope for, right? That people are going to be talking about it, even if it's good, bad, and everything in between.
100%. But I think, the craziest thing for me as an entrepreneur, as a founder, was getting those texts afterwards when people, were looking at the ad, and then at the end it says hint. And I mean, no one expected us to show up, right?
Was it kind of surreal?
It was totally surreal. And so, I mean, I had over 300 texts, like immediately following it was like boom, boom, and it wouldn't stop. I was like, the phone was going. It was crazy. But I think more than anything, not only was it exciting for, me personally and for, consumers because they were coming online to buy our product or going on Amazon to buy our product or going in stores to buy our product this week. But in addition, the team that has worked for Hint, we have, 250 employees, and, how excited they were that, their friends were saying, oh my gosh, that's that company that you work for, and that's so exciting. And investors were so excited, and friends, and I think people
it's
really...
It's a celebratory moment.
Yeah, and as one entrepreneur said to me, texted me afterwards, he said, this stands for all of the underdogs and all of the, the challenges that entrepreneurs have, what you guys did.
And as a female founder, too.
100%. Yeah. And so, anyway, it was very, very exciting. I could go on and on about it forever.
Cool.
But yeah, it was really, really great.
Well, now you know where she's at. She's made it.
Yay!
She's got a very thriving business.
Yes.
Now let's go back to the beginning to talk about how you got there. Starting with your story, I know that you were working at AOL, then you became a mom, and you weren't living the lifestyle you wanted to from a health perspective, and that was the inspiration. Tell me that story.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't really notice that I wasn't living, this life that I really wanted to be living, but I think, I left AOL. I had started my career, in editorial and media, and then ended up going into AOL, and I was at AOL for 7 years. And when I left, I had 2 kids, actually, that I had while I was at AOL, and then I decided I'm going to take some time off. I was spending a lot of time on the plane. AOL was based in Virginia. I was spending a lot of time in Virginia, New York. I lived in San Francisco, and so I just decided I don't really want to be on the plane every Monday and coming back on Thursday night or Friday. So that was my main reason for leaving. And then while I was looking at different jobs in, primarily in tech in San Francisco, I felt like I wasn't really sure that tech was really where I ultimately wanted to be. I'd been there for a while and I liked it and enjoyed it, but I wasn't sure if that was really it. But while I was interviewing for jobs, I remember, trying on a lot of my clothes. I had just had my 3rd child at this point, and I thought nothing fits me anymore. I, had gained a bunch of weight over the course of all of my pregnancies. And then more than anything, I had developed terrible adult acne. I had, my energy levels were really low, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And so I had been a competitive athlete growing up, and I basically decided I'm going to start working out every day. I know how to do this. I don't have a job, so this will be my new job, and I'm going to shop at Whole Foods every day because Whole Foods, that just shopping at Whole Foods, that will get me healthy, right? And so I, was living this way and finally realized that, I was doing everything that I knew how to do, but it still wasn't coming off. The weight wasn't coming off. My skin wasn't getting better. And basically I felt like my food wasn't really necessarily the issue, that I thought it was deeper than that. And so I went to a bunch of different doctors and sort of explained that, I'd progressively gained this weight over the years. It didn't just happen overnight. But, and then this skin issue with adult acne had developed, and I thought, I'm doing everything that I think I'm supposed to be doing, and that I'm watching my calories, all of these things. And then one day, as I'm explaining it, not just to my doctors, but also to myself, I thought, I drink this one thing every single day, which was diet soda. And I was, looking down at the label and looking at the calories, and I thought, at that time it had 10 calories. It wasn't the 0-calorie phenomenon that we're in today. And I didn't really understand all of the ingredients that was in my product. And I thought, gosh, maybe it's like this drink. Maybe that's what's causing me to not be able to lose the weight, and also the rest of the issues. So I decided cold turkey I was going to give up my diet, soda addiction, and just start drinking plain water. But I had never been a plain water drinker. I was one of those people that I knew that I was supposed to be drinking water, but I was so bored by water that I just thought.
And you weren't motivated,
and
so
I wasn't
you probably
motivated.
just didn't do it.
I just didn't do it. And somewhere in there I made excuses for the Diet Coke that I was drinking. I basically was like, this somewhere in there is water, so it's probably fine. And
Same with wine. That's what I tell myself.
It's like got some kind of liquid. I'm sure it's fine. And so I was living this way now, just trying to drink the water. And after 2.5 weeks of just switching from my diet soda to drinking just plain water, I lost over 20 pounds. Which was crazy. And in addition to that, my energy levels were back. My adult acne was gone. And I just thought, wow, that's crazy. And when you think about it, I talk about the acne a lot, because when you think about it, your skin is your largest organ, right? And when that kind of stuff is not sort of clicking, right? I always tell people, it's either something that you're putting on your skin or it's something that you're putting inside of yourself, right?
Yeah.
But I never really thought about it that way. And so 6 months went by, I was definitely losing weight, and finally hopped on the scale after a friend said, gosh, you look like a totally different person. And I realized that I had lost the 55 pounds, which is a ton of weight to lose in 6 months. And, especially if people haven't seen you in a while, it's like,
so
wait,
much.
What
From
happened to you?
changing one habit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, of course I said I'd been, running and doing all these different things, but I had really been paying attention to what I was putting into my body, and realized that it was this diet soda, just by changing that it made such a big difference. And so probably, a couple months more, it was probably 8-9 months at this point, I just thought, okay, honestly, I can't do this plain water thing anymore. I knew it was better for me, but it was just boring. So I started slicing up fruit and throwing it in the water, not intending to build a company out of it, but really just trying to help myself first. And so I, ended up basically living this way, for the next 6 months, and kept the weight off, and my skin was great, my energy levels were great. I was shopping at Whole Foods, and so I went into my local Whole Foods one day and asked the guy stocking the shelves, hey, I have this idea for this company or this product, but I don't want to develop this company if somebody else has a product like this out there. And so I told him it's real fruit with water, and it doesn't have any type of sweetener in it. And he pointed to a product called vitamin water, which actually vitamin water, 14 years ago, had more sugar in it than a can of Coke.
Oh,
and so I started having this dialogue with, the guy stocking the shelves at Whole Foods. And what I realized was that I was educating a lot of people about, drinks in general. I was a tech executive. I was not a, I was
lifestyle
not
brand,
right. I wasn't
yeah.
a beverage executive.
Yeah.
I wasn't, a nutritionist. I was really coming at it from a consumer perspective, wanting to actually help myself. And what I realized then was that I was really onto something. There was not a product like my idea out there. And so I went home that day and thought, I need to go do this product. And I remember saying to my husband, I have this idea for a company, and I'd been interviewing with a bunch of different companies, but I said, I have this idea for a company, and it's fruit and water. And the initial name for the company, for the product, I wasn't even thinking about it as a company quite yet, but was Wawa. And he's an intellectual property lawyer and from the East Coast. And he said to me, there's this company in Pennsylvania called Wawa. It's a large convenience store chain. And if you ultimately are successful, it's probably not going to be the best idea for a company name because somebody's already got it. So entrepreneurs ask me all the time, how'd you come up with this great name? And I mean, truly, just talking to my husband that day, I said, we're just giving people hints, and there's, a hint of flavor. And there was just somewhere in that conversation, I just kept saying this word, and I said, hint, that's it. That describes exactly what we're doing. And he said, 4-letter word, you're never going to get it trademarked, forget it, just get off of this idea. And that's when I really decided I need to go do this. Even if no one buys it, I mean, just by helping myself, I realized that I could ultimately help a lot of other people, and how I had seen so many people out there. Some of them were my friends that were talking about counting calories and talking about eating and drinking diet and, believing like I did that these diet sweeteners were ultimately better for them. And I thought, maybe they're not, right? Maybe that's really what the problem is. And
at that point in time, it probably took some education on making sure consumers understood that just because it looks like it's fruity, vitamin water I'm thinking of, doesn't mean that it's still not bad for you because there's all this sugar. Yeah.
I mean, there are products like, whether it's, diet soda or a vitamin water or whatever. I mean, it's interesting because I think most consumers think that they're actually, healthy, right? That those terms actually trigger something in your brain that it's actually better for you. And that was me for so many years. But when I realized that those things that I was, consuming were actually not getting me healthier and I needed to change, I thought, wow, if I could develop a product where people are actually finding health, that feeds my soul, right?
Yeah.
That's something that has purpose, that has mission, has, is really, why wouldn't I want to go do that? So that was really the epiphany of going and doing it. And at that point, I was, like I said, talking to my husband about this. And then I also thought that there was no better time to share with him that I was pregnant with my fourth. So I had the business plan together, my timeline for actually getting it on the shelf.
I'm birthing a baby and a business. Surprise.
Why not? What better time to do it? Had no idea that, typically companies are not developed within, 6-7 months. I thought, why not? And so that was really the beginning, and got it into Whole Foods and a few other markets locally in San Francisco where I am living. And, the rest is history. But I think it's, today we're actually 14 and a half years later, we're the largest independent non-alcoholic beverage in the country that doesn't have a relationship with Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper Snapple. We are nationwide. We also distribute a little bit differently. We're in lots of stores like the Whole Foods and Target. We're now in Walmart as well. But we also sell on Amazon, and almost 40% of our overall business is direct to consumer.
Well, congratulations.
It's very exciting.
That is amazing. And I want to touch on something you said where this really became a purpose for you and a passion, so much more than just a career and company. And that's probably really what has fueled you to want to stick with it when there were challenges and to grow it. So tell me a little bit about how it being a purpose-driven company has guided some of the decisions that you've made.
It's funny because I don't even think 14 years ago that term was out there, like mission company, purpose company. And I think, as time has gone on and people have called our company that, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we were doing, of course. But I feel like, when you get emails from consumers that say, you've really helped me. I mean, in no other job that I worked at in my career they were great roles and lots of great stuff got accomplished, but I didn't feel like I actually, really had the consumer responding to me in the same way. Because I think, when I think about health, like it doesn't matter your gender or where you live or how much money you have. If you don't have it, like your life is just not the same, right? And I think that's what I hear from consumers, that, things like type 2 diabetes, for example, are, when I started this company, it was about 2% of the population had type 2 diabetes or pre-type 2 diabetes. And, today almost 45% of the population has type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. And so I feel like that's, hint to something where, a lot of these consumers who are faced with these challenges of health are saying, gosh, I drink this. You're not calling me out for having type 2 diabetes. We hear from a lot of cancer patients that are going through chemo where you get a metallic taste when you're going through chemo, and they drink Hint and it helps them, get through the chemo. A lot of people who are, just trying to drink more water. I mean, we're now the largest beverage in Silicon Valley to all tech companies, lots of other companies as well. But I really feel like when you're running a company and you're working really hard and, especially, delivering your own cases, right? And you hear from consumers who might see a T-shirt that says Hint on it, and they stop me. I mean, they stop me on the airplanes now when I, have my luggage that says that or whatever. And they feel like they're invested in the product, right? We talked a little bit about the Super Bowl. It's sort of the same reaction to the Super Bowl. It's they're drinking a product that is $2 or less, and they're excited about it because it's something that helps them be the best they can be, right?
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't I want to run that company? Why wouldn't I be proud to do that?
Yeah, it becomes about the people over the profits, but because it's about the people, they're going to help you make profits.
Totally,
So it just kind of works out and everybody gets to feel good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's really, I can't imagine today ever running like something that doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And because I think it just feeds my soul. And, people always ask me, like, where do you get your, inspiration and your ability to get up? And I really think it's the customers. I mean, the customers are the ones that are, saying, oh, I can't wait. Like, we just launched a new flavor Clementine, which is amazing. And I mean, people are writing me daily and, showing up on my social media feeds saying that, this is this amazing product. And I think we were talking a little bit earlier, we branched outside of beverage in the last couple of years too, which has been really exciting. We just launched a couple of weeks ago deodorant. And really the inspiration behind deodorant, people are like, water and deodorant. And I think it really goes back to the purpose that with this product, it was really about no sweeteners. And with the deodorant, it's developing a great product for people to use that doesn't have aluminum in it. And also most of the deodorants that are out there that don't have aluminum in them have a coconut base. I happen to be allergic to coconut. Coconut's a class 1 allergen. So a lot of people actually, they may not have a true allergy, but they may have a sensitivity to coconut. And so I wanted to develop a product that was really great and actually worked and smelled wonderful. And so that's what we did. It's a lemon eucalyptus, and it's truly amazing. And then prior to that, a couple of years ago, we developed an amazing sunscreen that doesn't have oxybenzone. It comes in a stick. It comes in an aerosol. I mean, people stop me all the time. It comes in different scents that we're using actually the fruit. So that's really the consistent thread across all of our products.
Purpose, yeah.
Right, but every product has a purpose. And
so that becomes your brand, that
100%.
common thread of the hint, but then also that purpose.
Yeah, and so it's, it's exciting. And, I run into people who say to me, I used to drink hint all the time, still do, but then I tried the sunscreen and they're like, oh my gosh, like I don't have fights with my kids anymore about putting on sunscreen.
Especially sunscreen, it can smell really bad if it's not natural like yours is and doesn't have that hint of a nice smell. Yeah. So I'm going to have to check that out.
No, it's amazing. It has, we have 3 different scents. It's grapefruit, pear, and pineapple. Awesome. And my personal favorite is the grapefruit. It smells amazing. And so, I think we're really forging our own path too. People are like, wait a minute, like you're a beverage company and then you launch these other products. But I think it really speaks to what you said. It's the platform, it's the brand, it's the purpose. It really helps to escalate exactly what we're doing and what we're helping people do, which is ultimately helping consumers find health.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about those early years because again, you're an example of a company who has made it. So many companies fail. So those early years were your foundation. I know that you said that you were really scrappy. And as entrepreneurs in the beginning, there's a lot of things you can do. Not all of it is worthwhile. What was worthwhile to really focus on in the early years that have paid off now?
So I don't think I've ever left being scrappy. I still think, entrepreneurs ask me all the time, like, when can I, stop merchandising shelves when you walk into a Target store? I think, that for me is a way to not only stay close to, businesses, but also have an understanding of what's going on with my customers. And so I'm in a role now where as CEO, I have lots of great people working on my team, but I'm able to look at what do we do on customer service? What do we do on e-commerce? What do we do on, on our straight sales, into the, Targets and Whole Foods of the world? I really think that it all goes back to understanding who your customer is more than anything and never, ever losing track. So in the beginning, it was just me loading up my Grand Cherokee and enlisted my husband, who is now our Chief Operating Officer. He was my first, partner in crime and basically jumping in and helping with Hint. But the two of us would drive around our Jeep Grand Cherokee and delivering cases. And while we have distributors who do a lot of that now, I think that the key thing is never losing sight of who that customer really is from the beginning until now. And for all categories. The fun part about my business now is we launch these new categories, they're a little different. Right? It's a different distribution system for beverages and different distributors than, we have for personal care, for the deodorant and for the sunscreens. But it's still, who is that customer? Who is it serving? Is it a different customer that may be living in, the house with people that are drinking, Hint? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think for us, it's
getting
really
down to those nuances.
Yeah, but it really boils down to always thinking about the customer in every facet, whether it's, actually selling online or selling in stores or actually the customer service side of the business as well. I think it's always just staying close to that.
Yeah. And as the CEO, you're the face of the brand, and I know that you've really developed a personal brand. You're very active on social media, you have a podcast, you write articles. So when did that come about, and what's been your strategy to really develop this voice for the brand?
Yeah, so really the personal brand kind of started when friends, I would share with them that I, had just had lunch with another founder and another entrepreneur or, somebody who was in the industry that was just, really inspiring to me. And friends would say to me, gosh, I wish I would have been a fly on the wall. Like, I would have asked him this question, or I think it'd be so cool to meet somebody like that. And I thought I should start filming initially these conversations, because I bet I could share them on social media with lots of people, and it'd be really great, right? And they could feel like they were sitting in the room, and and I can look back on those conversations too, and be more inspired by it. And then I really realized that a lot of these people I couldn't actually sit face to face with, and I was having telephone calls with them, and I thought, why don't I just do it on a podcast? I mean, a lot of these conversations can just be had over over Zoom, or over the telephone, and so that was really the inspiration. But it's interesting. I think now it's evolved over the last couple of years to, I really want people who I have on the podcast in particular to kind of tell their unique story, right? It's an opportunity where I can actually elevate them with my audience to really help them be more known. And so that was really, that's what I lead with, I think, for that I really want to, make people know these people. And I think it's, it's just like a friendship, right? You're excited to introduce your friend to another friend.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's really how I think about these. And again, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to meet so many of these great people with great ideas, and, male and female, young and old. I mean, I feel like, there's just people that their stories need to be told.
Do you think this content that you're creating helps you connect with your customers? Because they get to know you and the face and the person behind the Hint brand?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the other thing, selfishly, I learn a lot from these conversations too.
Yeah, it's a networking tool.
I mean, I feel like the biggest, when I think back on what I learned, it's easier to sort of say hindsight 2020, right? Like, I felt like I needed to go out to the beverage industry and learn all of the stuff when I was starting a beverage company. And the people that I learned the most from were people who were, the underdogs, the people like forging their way in all of these different industries. And so that's kind of what I'm still doing. Like, I love talking to people that are, that have done companies, that have done just cool things that may or may not, be in the food and beverage industry. In fact, more of my entrepreneurs are not in the food and beverage industry. Like, they're just in other industries. And there's some crossover as you start to talk to people, but it's not necessarily like obvious at first. And then you start thinking about things. And I weave in, historical stuff that I've gone through, along the way. Like, oh, I remember when, I had a similar situation, this is kind of what happened. And sometimes it's even, I feel like I'm helping solve a problem that they've been going through, and because the entrepreneurs talking to me about, like, oh, that's really interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah,
and
cool.
So it's a lot of fun.
So the note I want to end on is, not only have you built a beautiful business, you've also built a beautiful life. I read that you go hiking in the morning, often with your husband. You have family time on the weekends. So tell me about your philosophy and how you've really cultivated that work-life balance.
So we moved from San Francisco out to Marin County, which is about 20 minutes over the bridge. Early on, I was looking for a good public school, so I wasn't going to be spending all the money that I would ultimately end up spending on the startup, on school, because we have great schools out in Marin County. So we moved out there, but the other piece of it was that I really wanted to move into an environment where nature was around me. And so I have 2 Labradors as well. And as you mentioned, I'm typically up hiking. I have a state park in back of my house that has about 100 miles, 100 acres of trails. And so I'm out there hiking with the dogs, and usually before it's light out with my headlamp on, first thing in the morning. And so I just feel like it just sets me, right? Like, I go out 3 to 5 miles every morning, and it just helps me think about what do I have in front of me for the day. And I'm running a healthy lifestyle company. I mean, why shouldn't I be, living and breathing it? But I also enjoy that, and it's, it's just part of me. I mean, that's really what I want to be doing. So I love it. I love where I am, and I love Hint and love everything that it's become.
Awesome. Well, if people want to try Hint for themselves, where can they find it?
So most stores, if they don't have it, ask for it. But definitely, as I mentioned, Target. We have lots of flavors in Target. Drinkhint.com, as well as Amazon and Whole Foods and Safeway and lots of...
Pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Kara, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for today's show. If you're loving this podcast, don't forget to subscribe so we can meet again next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for listening, and have an amazing week.